Welcome to the Knowledge for Men show. Your life will never be the same.
Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development.
I want to die empty of regret. I want to die empty of my best work. We don't understand who we are. Instead, we're living out somebody else's narrative.
What one man can do, another man can do. If it's been done, it can be done again.
Being yourself and being your truest, most authentic self in every moment. If it scares you or makes you a little afraid, do it. Follow your heart and your gut.
The first stage, I think, is finding you, like finding out who I am today.
Stuff will not work. You will have things that fail. Success is when you're a happy, fulfilled person. How do you define success?
It's your life, and you are the creator of the movie script that is your life story.
Hey, my team and I are offering a 3-day intensive retreat in San Diego, California. This retreat is going to be so powerful and transformative. My team and I will show you how to discover yourself, your true potential, and help you find your path and purpose in life and uncover the warrior's courage that is within you. I literally put my heart and soul into this program, and the reason why you want this is because I will save you time and money from having to figure out all of this on your own. There are only 10 spots available for the retreat, so go to kfmretreat.com to learn more and apply for the program. Again, that's kfmretreat.com. All right, guys, welcome to the show. I'm here with Zan Perrion. He is internationally regarded as one of the preeminent authorities on dating and seduction in the world today. And he's a frequent guest on radio and major TV shows, and the author of the new book, The Alabaster Girl, which I just picked up, and I'm really enjoying this book. So, Zan, happy to have you here on the show.
Thanks for having me, Andrew. Nice to be here.
All right. Zan, as you know, we're going to start off with a success quote or some sort of saying that you've lived by. So share with us what it is and what that really means to you, why you chose that.
Well, sure. The book you just mentioned that I wrote, The Alabaster Girl, the whole premise of the book is, if I were to put it into one word, it is beauty. And the quote that stands out for me to that is, beauty needs a witness. So my inspirational quote that I live by and I try and understand every day is beauty needs a witness. In other words, to move toward things that are beautiful and away from things that are mediocre. It defines my life. And things become beautiful and people become beautiful in the presence of somebody who is a seeker of beauty. In other words, beauty needs a witness.
And what is beauty?
Beauty, I think, is, that's my next book is going to be about that very concept.
All right.
But in essence, I think beauty is missing from our consciousness and from the earth. We've gone away from the aesthetic of beauty and into rationalism and and the scientific inquiry and stuff like that. And I think beauty needs to be reclaimed and brought back as in its rightful place, or beside truth and honor. And to me, beauty is peak experiences that Maslow talked about. It is living a life that has meaning. It is, going down paths in our lives that have music in them and heart and soul. So it's a very broad thing, and it's on a very broad level. It is the treasure that we all seek, in my mind.
All right, this kind of gives us a taste of who you are here. Let's just briefly talk a little bit about how you got started with what you do, what led you down this path of starting out with dating advice and seduction, and to where you are now today. And
sure, I'm from northern Canada, and I was raised primarily in the wilderness of northern Canada, with no real money or education. I left home roughly when I was 13 and moved further into the wilderness, and with no running water and electricity for a large part of that. And then I came out of that, age 19 or so, into the cities of the world, and had to try and make my way with no education, no money, no seeming opportunities. And I was very insecure. And my whole concept from my earliest days is I just absolutely love girls. And I've loved women my entire life. It's been my driving force is like to understand the concept of the female spirit and my role in relationship to that. So through many trial and error and rejections and trouble and heartbreaks and successes, I came to a place where I am now, which is many, many years later, having written a book called The Alabaster Girl about that. And I've spent my entire life as a student of women, trying to understand the hearts and minds of women and the psyche and the spirit of feminine nature. So I wrote a book about women, and I actually wrote it to women. That's what the book is about, and it's written to women. So ambitious and presumptuous, yes, but that's what I did, and I spent my entire life in the pursuit of that as a student of women.
What does it mean to be a student of women?
Well, it's for me, like, I was so phenomenally backwards with social relationships when I was young, in like early 20s, that I had no clue. I had no understanding if a girl liked me or what I should do, or if I should call her, whatever. But I really wanted to be in the presence of women that I desired. So I set out one day to say, this is something that was inherent in me, but I fought for it, and I said, I'm going to set out to spend my life, to devote my life to becoming the greatest lover a woman's ever known, becoming this great, quote-unquote, seducer. And I headed down that path to the exclusion of almost everything else. And so I did years and years of trying to understand that. And just long story short, you come full circle where you realize this concept of trying to be a seducer is not the fulfillment that you're desiring. And it's really just, you come back to the idea that the greatest seduction is authenticity.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's a long, cursive, circular route to discover myself and my role with women, and the simplicity of it really, in the end, of just being yourself and speaking plain truth without trying to put on all kinds of seduction ideas and thoughts and be that, quote unquote, that guy. So it's been a long journey. I've been coaching then for 12 years. I've had my early company was called Enlightened Seduction. My company now is called Ars Amorata, and I've been doing a lot of lectures and talking around the world about this very subject. So it's very near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, I can see that. You've spent 12 years, you spent the life being a student of women. Now, how do you balance, you love women. Most conversations with men will end up leaning towards, at some point, women. Or if you ask, as soon as somebody brings it up, that's when everyone kind of starts getting excited in the conversation. I've noticed from doing this work, if we're talking about purpose and money, It's exciting. But when you start talking about women, the ears start opening up.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you balance? You say you're a lover of women, and even going back to your quote, and in your book, it's the secret to success with women is knowing that beauty needs a witness.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that a lot. It's like acknowledging the beauty that most men overlook, and they're looking for other things. What I'm trying to get to is, how do you balance this without coming across as needy or as a weak man? Is this putting women on a pedestal if you take it too far?
That's a great, I wrote about that extensively, and as you get into the book more, you'll find that. But it's like, the idea is that a true lover of women stands on this earth with both feet planted and knows what he wants and who he is. And he speaks his desire where other men will not. So he speaks it strongly. So he can stand here and he can compliment a woman and say, you know what, you absolutely look lovely in that dress. And I want to say that. And he can say that because it comes from a place of conviction from who he is, not because he's trying to gain something from her with his compliment. The intention behind it has a center of gravity to it that she can feel. And so the idea is that a true lover of women puts women on a pedestal, not her specifically. So to him, women have this quality about them, which is the feminine spirit, which is in polarity to the masculine spirit, which he embraces and owns in his sexual nature. And that polarity of women he celebrates and says, this is we're missing the true femininity of women, just like we're missing the true masculinity of men today. And so he calls it forth and he wants to see it. And when he does see it, he celebrates it and honors it and compliments it. But it comes from a place of not needing something in return. Most men, if they buy a drink for a girl or they compliment her eyes, they're hoping that she will take that compliment in the context of he's better than other guys and give him something in return. In other words, his compliments have nothing to do with her, but everything to do with him and what his hidden agenda.
Yeah. What do I get? What do I get?
What do I
for
get?
this?
And I'll do this. That's why guys will not compliment. And I see this over and over again. You see a guy who turns on his charm and his smile for a pretty girl here, and over his shoulder there's a girl that's not as attractive or not his type, and he glances over her and ignores her, and doesn't turn on his charm and his smile and complimenting nature to her. And in that respect, he's trying to turn something on and off in the presence of women he's attracted to, and not the other, when there's women he's not attracted to. So what he's in effect doing, and guys complain to me all the time when women are always rejecting me and turning their back on me and not being nice to me, and when I'm approaching them, approach them and say hi, and women are being mean to me. But he does the exact same thing to girls he's not interested in. He sees her, well, I'm not interested in her, so he turns his back on her. And to a true lover of women, they're all his girls. They all need to feel the presence of him saying, hey, I adore women, and you are one of those. And so I celebrate. So my energy and my sexual nature and my magnanimous spirit is here for all to enjoy. It's equally spread, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this seems like a much more mature approach.
Yeah.
And how do we explain the difference between how a boy views a woman and a man views a woman? And I'm not talking about like a child.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, like just a man who's still in that stage.
Most of the men in our modern society are boys because we never had a rite of passage to transition. Right. So we just kind of play with our PlayStations when we're little boys, and we're still playing with them now, but we're not having any fun.
Right.
So a boy is looking for what he can get in return. A man is looking with what he can share. So a boy is looking to say everything he does is to perpetuate his or to advance his hidden agenda. That's the key word. It's a hidden agenda.
Yeah.
So he acts indifferent. He asks, can you tell me directions to blah, blah, blah. We do all these things. We look her straight in the eye. We never show our intentions or our desire because we don't want to appear needy or insecure or too available. Where a true lover of women can stand there and look at her and say, you know what, I will say this. You are a true beauty, and it's magnificent to see, and thank you. And the way you're dressed and the way you carry yourself, it catches my eye. He can say that high compliment because it comes from a place of not needing anything in return. He did his job as a man by just simply outlaying a fact that he sees, and he expresses it exactly like that. You look fantastic. Now, in that, there could be great desire. Desire is not neediness. A great desire to say to a woman, you know what? I have to say this. You are the prettiest girl I've seen in X amount of time, and I don't know who you are, and I would love to get to know you. I would love to see you again. That's a strong thing that a man would say that a boy would not say. He would try and hide that agenda and say, hey, well...
Where's Starbucks? What time is it?
Yeah. And then if he does get his nerve to, it's like he would say something, well, would you like to maybe, I don't know, hang out sometime? Which is a cop-out, which is a average phrase, a beige phrase, but doesn't make it look like he's really trying to ask her out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is everywhere.
There might be a lot of guys raising their hand saying, that's me.
You bet.
You bet, yeah. How does someone who feels that or is in that area of his life step into that more masculine energy? How does he go from boy to man?
Well, first of all, recognize that is art, and I speak to myself, so I'm not going to guys and saying, hey, you're a bunch of boys. I'm speaking to my young self.
Okay.
And I wrote the book for me. I wish I would have had it when I didn't have any heroes or mentors or somebody to look up to say, son, this is how you do it. I didn't have that. I don't look down, and we're all on the same journey. And the only difference between me and other guys out there is I've been thinking about these things for a lot longer. That's all. And so the first step is to recognize that, there is this. We have been sold a bill of goods. Our modern society and the way the schools are constructed, and we're raised primarily by women, and we don't have that strong father figure that keeps us grounded and gives us some sense of direction, purpose, and passion. And to recognize that is there, and there is a possibility of a place to go. We don't have to accept that lot. We can take steps forward, no matter what our lot in life. We can take steps forwards to say, no, I want something different. We can announce that to ourselves and to the world and the ones around us, say, I want to move forward with a different way of looking at the world, with a different light in my eyes. And so for me, I had to go through years and years and years of beating my head against the wall when I was first trying to learn this, there wasn't, the internet didn't have a bunch of forums and discussion groups, and nobody's doing any kind of programs. There's no such thing as dating coach. And I figured it all out, and I figured it out 100% on my own. But what a modern man can do now, a modern young person can do, is to take the tools that are out there and shortcut that education. And, for instance, if they read my book, they would get 30 years of this head scratching into a synopsis that I hope is valuable to them. So, but first of all, it's just to recognize that there is a better way, and then to make the conscious choice to say, no matter what, I want to step into a man's shoes. I don't know how, but I'm going to do that. And that alone will shift things in the way people see him and the way he sees the world.
Mm. You bring up an interesting point. You said, I wish I had this book decades ago. This wasn't around. No mentors back then. No resources back then. It seems like to me this whole dating or seduction or just improvement for men in dating didn't really start to pick up until the late 90s.
That's right.
Why do you think it's the 90s? What's happening in history and culture that would make it so the 90s was the period? Why didn't it happen in the 80s or the 70s?
Well, I think there was a perfect storm of things that happened, and that is we're all, born in this, our entire generation is born and raised under what we call the second wave feminist phase. And it's a strong phase. And there's all kinds of social commentary around it, so I won't go into it into detail. But the idea of this equality movement was equality. But the problem is, and we all recognize this, men and women recognize this, we didn't, 60 years on here or whatever, we didn't get equality. We got sameness. Men are more like women and women are more like men. It's kind of all blended together. And we've lost the beauty of polarity, which is the opposites attract, which is the strength and beauty and conviction of a female spirit is attracted to the strength and beauty and conviction of the male spirit. But instead it's all kind of it's all a bunch of pleasing, I guess you could say, and blending together. And so that happened, and that culminated right around in the 90s. At the same time, the consumer generation that we are, we're materialist, and we're all the materialism stuff and all the things we have. We had televisions and pool tables and cars and these kinds of things, and we were still empty and unfulfilled. And we all turned around and said, "Is that it? I bought all this stuff that's supposed to make me happy, that the ads told me was going to make me happy and feel young. And this beautiful fancy sports car I bought, I saved up for, it still doesn't get me a girl. And I still don't have a girl that I want." So we turned around and said that kind of accumulated in the 90s too with our generation. And then the internet took off at the very same time. Yeah. And gave a forum where we could all discuss it on a public level and not just with your buddies at the bar.
Yeah.
So all these things culminated and came together.
Yeah. Yeah. The advent of the internet, I know, is huge. The feminist movement,
huge.
YouTube forums. What it does is it gathers like-minded men together from all across the world. And it's well, I'm not alone.
Yeah, you couldn't have it, for instance, a dating coach. You could on a local level where some guy gets a reputation of, hey, I heard you're good with women and maybe you can help me and my buddy here, right?
Yeah.
But you couldn't have that kind of websites and, well, obviously you wouldn't have websites over the internet,
right.
But you couldn't have that kind of distributed, look what I can teach you. And now everybody's a dating coach, right?
Yeah, yeah, or they think they are. Or the coach was, he was like a lawyer and on the side he was helping guys, or he wasn't doing it full time.
I mean, I've been around since the very early days. I mean, I was written about in Neil Strauss's best-selling book, The Game.
Right.
You wrote a chapter in there and me. And before that, 4 or 5 years before that, we were all in discussions. Backward Mystery and all those guys were just starting to do the first workshops and boot camps. And so, the movie Hitch came out to kind of capture that concept. And so I was back in the early days. And so I've seen it all morph and change and grow. And we never had any of it before, and the internet is the only thing that made it possible.
Yeah. To go to the topic now of loving women, what advice would you give to a guy it's challenging for him to embrace the whole loving women when a woman has deeply hurt him in the past?
Well, let's be very clear about one thing. I'm not ever, and it might sound like it, people might think that, but I'm never the one that says that women are all perfect and angelic creatures and we need to bow down to them. Not at all. There's just as many broken and vindictive and petty and terrible women in the world as there are petty, vindictive, and broken, petty, terrible men in the world. So I'm not saying that that's the case, but we shift from that to the concept that the female spirit is what will rebirth us. And we claim that, we call that forth in the women we meet, in our relationships, etc. And we are going to be hurt, no matter what. The men who are listening to your show are going to meet somebody for a weekend or a few years or a long time that they're going to be deeply in love with and feel that they want nothing else than that woman forever. And then someday it ends and he's heartbroken to his core. That happens. It happens to all of us. On a more superficial level, men have been hurt from women who are just not nice. He's trying to be nice. He's trying to get up his energy or his courage to go talk to a girl because he would like a girlfriend. He's sincere. He's a sincere guy. And he walks up to a girl and he talks to her and he says hello to her and she turns her back on him and says, leave us alone. We're talking here. Go away. And that happens enough that men are gun shy and they've been hurt. And so I understand and I get all that. But to say that, but to recognize that there is beauty in this world, the beauty in women, in certain women that they will discover if they continue, that not all women are petty and dismissive. There are some incredible beauties out there that will shake their foundations. And guys say to me all the time, well, what do you say to a woman who is being mean to you if you go up and say hi in a bar or something? And what are you supposed to do? Make a joke or try and teach her a lesson or get angry at her? And my answer is always just like, why would you try and correct behavior that has nothing to do with you? That's her work to do. It's like riding, why would you continue talking to her at all? Because it's like trying to ride a bicycle with the brakes on. Your energy is blocked. So look away from mediocrity and seek out treasure, seek out beauty, and you will find it when you change your perspective instead of looking like with the perspective of all women are all manipulative, they're all gold diggers or whatever. If you have that perspective, that's the way it's going to look like to you. But if you have the perspective that there's beauties out there, and I want to see beauty in you and you and you, and this is what I want to see, then the world shifts into that. It's hard to describe, but it's...
Yeah, I'll give like an example, or I'll ask you for an example to help us kind of really see it. When you see a woman, how do you see that woman versus how does a boy see that woman?
Well, I start with a default. And believe me, I have all kinds of reasons to believe that women are not nice and rejecting and play with men's hearts for sport and flaky. I have all kinds of reasons to believe that or to see that just like anybody else. But I've had all kinds of trouble. And so most of us will start with the default of all women so far have been not nice to me, or I've asked them out and they said they would go and then they flaked on me and they're just not trustworthy. So they start with that perspective and of her, and they start with the perspective of him that women just don't like me because I'm not tall enough or I'm not good looking enough or I'm not interesting enough. And so I'm getting up my nerve to go talk to her, but she doesn't like me. I'm going to be rejected just like all the the hundreds of times in the past.
Right.
So we make an assumption about her. We make an assumption about us. And we start from that default perspective. And we basically walk up with a rejection written all over our face. And when she says, well, it's sweet of you to ask me out, but, I'm engaged or I'm married or I have a boyfriend or something, we turn around and think, I knew it. I suck. I'm too short. And so the perspective shift is to move into all situations and say, you know what, this woman could fall in love with me. You just never know. It's a made-up story. Our assumptions are made-up stories anyway. You might as well make up a good one. And so you start with a perspective of who knows what possibilities can potentially happen here. And here I am showing up and doing my job as a man. I'm here saying, I like you, and I don't know why. There's something about you and the way you're wearing that dress I like, and I would like to see you again. That's all I know. And in that case, the ball is in her court. He has stated his truth. He just stated, this is how I see the world. And she can do what she wants with that information. She can say, I'm not interested, I have a boyfriend, or here's my phone number, whatever. She can do what she wants with the information, but he has at least showed up. Woody Allen said that 80% of success is just showing up. And this is what modern man doesn't do. This is why they're dating coaches. Dating coaches don't teach you a great technique or a great thing to say or a great way to lean your shoulder a certain way. They think they do. And the guys who are taking these programs think that that's what they're learning. But really what the dating coaches are giving guys is they're teaching them to show up. They're forcing them to go talk to that quote unquote two set over there, which they've never done. They've never done it in their entire life. They've never gone up to a girl in a bar and said hi, ever, for instance. And now they're forced to because they paid $2,000. So right? So they go do it and they talk to 25 sets that night. And it's the greatest experience they've ever had in their life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a reawakening.
So people say, well, the dating coaches are teaching manipulation. Well, I tell you, you know what they are doing, and give credit for that. They're getting guys out of their basement suites, away from their PlayStations, into the land of women, and showing up. It doesn't matter what they say. They could just say, hi, I'm nervous, but I wanted to come talk to you. If a man did that by himself this weekend, after listening to this interview, if he went out by himself and went out to any bar, and he walked up to 25 different girls in that bar and said, hi, you know, I want to say hi to you because you look nice. My name is Andrew or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
He would be shocked at the results he gets.
Oh, yeah. Anywhere. It doesn't even have to be a bar. It could be the mall. It could be a grocery store. It could be outside at a park.
But instead, he's got to pay the $2,000 to get that, to feel like he has to do it now.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah. One thing I'm noticing about all of when you're kind of giving a scenario, you're like being really authentic. You're just saying like, hey, it's like you're curious to know who she is. And then you said your truth about, which is how you feel in that moment about her. And you're just noticing things about like what she's wearing or what she did. And earlier you did mention authenticity. You found as in the Alabaster Girl is it the key to seduction?
Yes. But we don't think it is, and I didn't think it was. I thought you had to be this projection of the better version of you. So the suave guy, the cool guy. I learned how to say certain things and how to do certain things. And now you learn years. My journey of full circle comes to the point where authenticity, just being who you are, which is a cliche, of course. Guys say, well, myself sucks, so I don't want to be myself. But the best thing you can say, your best opening line is hi. It truly is. And it's like, that's all that's ever been needed, and across the centuries, to spark to flame a relationship that lasts for the lifetime. But we think we have to have complex algorithms, techniques, memorization techniques, right?
It just sounds like I'm getting confused when you start saying that stuff. I like to say, it's not about the move you make; it's just about the fact that you make a move.
That's correct. 100%. That's a great way of saying it. That is all it is. If you just make a move, you can be ridiculous. You can be interesting. You can just stand there and look at her, and smile. It's a move. That is all that's ever been needed. And that's all that is still needed.
Yeah, I'm actually about to publish a short ebook on breakups, and what I'm finding is that a guy who's working on this part of his life will at some point start to see a lot of results. He'll end up with a girl, fall in love, and then that breakup may happen. Like it was kind of too quick. He's still working on himself, which is understandable. But he goes through this breakup, and I find that this is a key point where a lot of guys just like, screw it, I'm done with this. I don't, and then they blame it on kind of the dating coach or this guy's philosophy. Right. What advice do you have to help someone really just bounce back after that breakup and understand more about what happened there?
Well, I tell you, like, as I wrote in the book, it's a difficult thing, I'll tell you, because we think that women are the romantic ones, but it's really the men. Women are far more pragmatic when it comes to relationships. When a relationship between a man and a woman is ending, the woman has spent months discussing it with her mother, her sister, her best friends over and over and over again, and trying to discuss it with him. And he's like, yeah, but I'm working hard, and let's talk later. And he tries to deflect it and push it away. So when a relationship ends for the man and the woman, and there's a heartbreak there, she has rationalized it to death. She's discussed it ad infinitum with everybody. And so she is done. And her emotional breakdown has happened in dribs and drabs over a period of time. For the man who's been putting it off and hoping that she'll just, if I buy her some flowers and, take her to dinner next week and she'll be happy, and thinking that it'll just go back to status quo, it hits him all at once, and now he's lost his girl. And he has never had anybody to talk to, and he still generally doesn't have anybody to share it with. And so he's gut shot. He's like, He's sick to his stomach. He can't work. He can't eat. He's desperate. He tries everything to get her back, writing love notes, long 3-page letters, buying flowers, doing all this kind of stuff. And all those things just push her away.
Yeah.
And so men are the ones that have the hard time getting over breakups. It's not women. And I'm generalizing, of course. But men are the ones that get hit with the emotional burden all at once because they've been pushing it off, and women have been trying to understand it for a long time. So men are in a bad way, and you are going to have that in your life, which is part of the experience of life, where you're so sad and lonely and hurt, and wish you could do anything to reverse the time and take a time machine, go back and just redo it. That's the way it is. And the only thing that'll ever resolve that, and you know, you hear all kinds of stuff. I remember back in the seduction community like 12 years ago, guys are saying, oh, the best way to get over a woman is to have sex with 10 other women. That was like a, statement, a phrase.
It was like
right?
a law. It was a law of seduction.
And that does not work. Anybody who's really been in love with a girl and misses her with all of his heart can go have sex with 10 other women. He's just like, that doesn't even compare. So truthfully, the only thing that'll solve it, and it always does, and it's such a glorious, beautiful thing, and when you look back, it's like, it's incredible how strong and magnificent that made you. The only thing that solves a real strong heartbreak and a real hurtful time is time. Same thing it's always been. And time will heal it all, and time you'll look back and you'll be glad that it's over. There's a time in your life when you'll be glad that it didn't last with that girl that today you're heartsick about and you can't think and you can't eat. And I tell the guys, and intellectually they understand it, but they'll never feel it from this side of the curtain. You get on the other side, you go, wow, you know, that ended, and that was quite a time in my life, and I was so hurt and so sad. But look at the girl I'm with now, or look at this new opportunity I have here now, and I'm glad that didn't consist, you know, with her. It's the way it works.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the big lessons I have in the book that I'm writing is one of the first things guys want to do is they want to try and get the girlfriend back. It's like, how do I get her back?
Right.
Like you said, and you start sending flowers, all this stuff, you start going a little crazy, is to accept that no matter what happened, you were always going to lose her, because all relationships will end, whether if it comes to death, if you get sick and die, if she gets in a car accident, or if it's just natural causes in the future, the pain of this loss of this loved one was going to happen at some point in your life. It may have happened 30 years from now, or it could happen 3 years from now. But regardless, the pain you're experiencing now is minimal compared to what it would be in the future.
That's correct. That's right. I mean, and it's always the way it is. We try and, you know, minimize our pain, our fear of that pain, and we're so afraid to lose. I mean, this is why, getting waxing philosophical, this is why... No,
do it. The show is called Knowledge for Men.
the Greek Stoics we talk about it now as a new concept, but the Greek Stoics, it was all about unattachment to outcome.
Right.
And so is Buddhism. I mean, it's impermanence. In Buddhist philosophy, everything is impermanent. That's why the extremes of it is to become a monk, so that because you will not be connected to loved ones who die. Because that turns your mind away from what you should be thinking about, which is spiritual things, to worry about somebody who's sick and they're going to die. And so they seclude themselves. They unattach themselves from things, but also relationships. So, I mean, that's been around forever. And you know, we've got these new ideas out here, which are really old ideas, which is, you know, unattached to the outcome, etc. And I mean, the first phrase in my book is basically, all beautiful things must end, otherwise they're not beautiful. And it's the same concept, you know, that is the essence of you know, what we're trying to run from, which you're trying to hide from, which is the fear of death and impermanence. So, yeah. You
did mention that. I remember reading that, actually, accepting that all beautiful things come to an end, and that's what makes it beautiful. So really accepting that that's kind of painful to hear. But if you can accept it, then life is a lot more freeing, and you're almost just free to be authentic as possible. Like, just to really go after the things you want in life, and just show up like absolutely courageous and authentic and naked.
Yeah, because then you can live a life of experiences and making memories, as opposed to fear of loss and fear of we won't make commitments. We won't attach ourselves to something because I don't want to get hurt. And the writer Willa Cather said, this is the joy of the rose, that it blows and then it goes. The joy of the rose is that it's here and beautiful now, but then it goes someday. And, and we're so fearful of that, and fearful of loss and being hurt that we shun it, we hide away from it. In a lot of the literature out there talks about the fear of rejection. There's a lot of the things that guys get coached on, and we think that that's a big problem. I'm afraid of being rejected because I was rejected as a little boy, and I'm afraid that I'll be rejected from women, and so that motivates us to not go to talk to a pretty girl that we see over there, for instance. Okay, but a large part of, I think, an equal fear that doesn't get talked about so much for men not approaching that girl in the subway or in the coffee shop or whatever that he thinks is attractive is not necessarily the fear of rejection, but the fear of success. Because what if she likes him? What if I go up and talk to that girl who's drinking coffee and she likes me, gives me her phone number, wants to see me again? Now I have to be interesting and dynamic, and I can't sit and play World of Warcraft all weekend, and that kind of motivates guys too. Which is like, I like my comfort zone, and the fear of success is, I think, a large thing for guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If it works out, then I might have to do a date. I don't want to do a first date.
But also I don't think I have anything to talk about. So she's not going to like me, and and I have to be interesting on this date, and I'm going to screw it up. And so the fear of her actually saying yes is what makes guys like, okay, I better not go ask her.
I think also in business as well. Well, let's now dive into, I'm really enjoying the conversation. It's really, really deep and touching on a lot of really good topics I know the audience is enjoying. Let's now dive into something I call the knowledge round. Just real quick part of the show. Just going to ask you some rapid fire questions here.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, I want to share with you more about the Knowledge for Men 3-day intensive retreat. I will show you how to discover yourself so you'll know exactly who you are, what you want, and have the conviction of how to get there. You can become a leader so you can achieve greatness in all aspects of your life and become the man you want to be. It is all lying within us dormant until the right teacher helps us tap into our inner warrior. You will be tested, challenged, and pushed beyond your limits, and together we will push the boundaries of what is really possible in your life. So go to kfmretreat.com to apply, because there are only 10 spots for the retreat, and there are thousands of people listening to this right now. When the 10 spots are gone, they're gone. So go to kfmretreat.com and join me now. This is your time. I'd love to serve you in building and creating a bigger life. Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime.
The first question I have here is, you've been working on this area of your life for a long time. I feel just the purpose, like a man of purpose, and you've grown so much, and you've been helping and giving value to so many people. Now, what advice would you give to someone who is not having that purpose, who's feeling lost and unsure of what they're supposed to do? What is this purpose?
Travel is my advice. Get out there and scare yourself. Yeah. My quick answer. Go climb a mountain and don't tell anybody you did it.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. Go on an adventure.
Go on an adventure. Go on a vision quest. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. What was holding you back from becoming the man you are now today?
Fear of that I wasn't good enough. For years and years and years, that I just wasn't good enough, and I was faking it.
Yeah. And can you name a person who's had a large impact on your life, such as a mentor? Who is this person, and how has this person impacted you?
I have no real living mentors, and which shocks me, because I didn't really have a teacher, or except for, my teachers have been women in general. But my mentors and the ones I look up to and the ones I gained great inspiration from were figures of history like Casanova and Cellini and these guys who went and lived a life. They left their countries with nothing and went out there to try and find adventure and seek treasure. And I mean, like, I've never read any books on relationships or self-help books or dating, any ever in my life. I've never read none of those. And people are surprised when I say that, but the thing and I read a lot, like you do, but what I read is history books and books of people who like went out there and tried to be an adventurer. So that's my influences is historical characters, I guess you could say.
Okay, let's go into the next thing I have is, what would you say are two of your most influential books and why?
The Autobiography of Benvenuto Cellini, who was a Renaissance sculptor, lived in Florence, and he just lived like a Forrest Gump type of life. He was always there. If there was a war, all of a sudden he was in the middle of it. If there was a pope, he was shaking his hand. He was in duels. He was in battles. He had women, and he lived a life. And so that book influenced me greatly. Another book, obviously, is the memoirs of Casanova. Very long volumes of books, but I read that when I was like young, and it influenced me greatly.
All right. Yeah, good books. Now, just bringing it down to a close here soon, what would you actually, I'll go in with this. Imagine you had 60 seconds with your 20-year-old self. What would you tell him to do, and what would you tell him not to do?
Wow. I would tell him to immediately quit this corporate search you're trying to do. Well, this societal search of trying to fit into society and buy the house and the car and all that kind of stuff, and go out and hit the road and go meet interesting people and hang around your heroes. That's what I tell them to do. Go hang around your heroes. Go seek them out wherever they are in the world, and go and find them and be there with them.
I like that. I'm just feeling like it's kind of, I feel like just the hero's journey when I'm listening to you.
Yeah, this is what it is for sure.
Yeah. And just even if you have to summarize some of your main points, final, response here is, what would you say is your philosophy on life and success?
Well, I believe in the rebirth of romance, and I believe in beauty. And the thing that I'm talking about and writing about that interests me the most is the greatness of the polarity of men and women, the polarity of the masculine spirit and the female spirit, which is what I've been trying to reclaim, what I'm trying to have others embrace, is their sexual masculine nature is a gift from God. And to own that and recognize that your sexuality is divine, as opposed to something to hide and be ashamed of. And so that's my life work. And when I talked at the beginning of this call, it was the philosophy of beauty. And my next 50 years is going to be considering and trying to write about the essence of beauty and what it is, what that means to us as men, the beauty of men, to ourselves, the beauty of a life well lived, the beauty of our role with nature, and the beauty of women in our lives, the whole thing.
All right. Yeah, I'm just soaking that in. No, it's really, I like it. It's just making me just really feel more alive just listening to you talk here. And obviously I was reading your book earlier. So, and for all the listeners, The Alabaster Girl, Zan Perrion, just go to Amazon, type in Zan Perrion, you'll see it, or just Google The Alabaster Girl. It pops right up, takes you straight to Amazon. I've read the first few chapters. I'm really enjoying the book, so I highly recommend it for you guys as well. And while we just come to a conclusion here, what's next for you here, Zan? I know the book just came out, but what are you looking forward to doing moving forward with this work that you do?
I'm definitely going to go into a period here, I can feel it, of reflection and research. When I was writing this other book, it took me 10 years to write Birthday to Birthday. It was such a difficult thing for me to write. And about 6 or 7 years into the process, I went to Nicaragua for 4 months. I sat in the jungle and sat with the book and sweated it out and tried to understand it. And it was a strong period of introspection and trying to understand how the book should shape, etc. And I'm going to go into another phase like that. I can feel it, where I'm going to be thinking and talking and really a lot of research and self-reflection to come up with the next project, which is the advancement of the book, The Alabaster Girl. Not necessarily the same subject, but a further look at the deeper structures around it, I guess you could say. So I'm going to be philosophizing and researching in the next few years.
All right. And I'll be happy to have you back on the show with the next updates of work. I've really enjoyed having you on. I know my audience really enjoyed your insights as well, but we'll cut it here. And thank you so much for your time, your story, and being vulnerable on the show with me.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Andrew.
Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast. Hundreds of interviews and 1 million downloads later, we're continuing to build an international movement, and we've just started. So if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and leave a review in iTunes. It really helps to grow the podcast. Guys, 2015 is the official year of living with purpose, where every day you do only the things that matter to you. You wake up, live with purpose, and take massive action towards the life you want. Check out kfmfree.com to get free tools I've created to help you crush life. Again, that's kfmfree.com. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, and I'll see you in the next episode.